Welcome to today's webinar brought to you by Progress, Reltio, Ahana, and Unravel Data. I'm Stephen Fig, Director at Database Trends and Applications and Unisphere Research. I will be your host for today's broadcast. Our presentation today is titled Unlocking the Value of Cloud Data and Analytics. Before we begin, I want to explain how you can be a part of this broadcast. There will be a question and answer session. If you have a question during the presentation, just type it into the question box provided and click on the submit button. We'll try to get to as many questions as possible, but if your question is not selected during the show, you will receive an email response. Plus, all viewers today will be entered for a chance to win a $100 Amazon gift card just for participating. Now, to introduce our speakers for today, we have Todd Wright, Global Product Marketing, Data Direct Solutions at Progress. Mike Frasca, Field Chief Technology Officer at Reltio, Rachel Podreski, VP of Technical Services at Ahana, and Chris Santiago, Vice President of Solutions Engineering at Unravel Data. Now I'm going to pass the event over to Todd to get us started. Welcome to the broadcast, Todd.
It's Todd Wright with Progress Data Direct, and for today's webcast, I would like to discuss the analytics space and the importance of data availability and connectivity. Thus, the title of my presentation, More Data Makes for Better Analytics. So to jump right in, let's talk about the data and analytics space and where it is going. Probably no surprise to anyone listening today, the analytics space and data and analytics space is skyrocketing in both the amount of revenue growth that is occurring, but also the number of vendors in the space now to include open source options such as Python and R. And to really get a glimpse of that revenue growth, according to research from Fortune Business Insights, 2022 is expected to bring in little over $271 billion for the data and analytics space, with a projected compound annual growth rate of 13.4% to 2029, where they will see the market at a staggering number of just over $655 billion. And the growth in the analytics space really isn't only about revenue, but also innovation. According to a great article written on the Geeks for Geeks webpage, they see some of the major trends as the following. First, smarter and scalable artificial intelligence, in which algorithms continue to learn from experience and more data. The second one they cited was agile and composed data and analytics, which includes low code and no code. The third one, computing on the edge, which makes for faster analytics. And fourth and finally, augmented analytics to take out much of the day-to-day repetitive tasks those working with data and analytics have come to expect. But even with all the progress and innovation that is occurring within the analytics and AI space, it still comes down to the data. And one thing I really like to show on a webcast like this, to really place emphasis on the fact that it really is about the data when it comes to the analytics space, are the comments from Peter Norvig, the former research director at Google, and currently a distinguished education fellow at the Stanford Institute for Human-Centered AI. I know that's a mouthful. And his thoughts are the following. We don't have better algorithms, we have more data. More data beats clever algorithms. And finally, simple models and a lot of data trump more elaborate models based on fewer data. And while the term big data has been beaten to death over the last several years from marketing people such as myself, the promise of more data and big data and more data from more sources was never about having more data for the sake of just having it and storing it away somewhere, but instead the direct and positive impact more data has on AI and analytics programs. And I mean, just look at this slide. My first thought is, wow, there is a lot of data sources around today. And this slide just represents a snapshot of the total, as there is no way I could fit them all in one slide. Really, the point being here is, who knows the insights that could potentially be locked away in such sources as Twitter, a GitHub, and maybe even text files. And I think we can all agree having more data goes beyond just accessing the data sources you have. in the past and expecting continued improvements as far as customer insights are concerned. You need to tap into those data sources that are newer and less traditional to get better insights for today. But such is life, where there are opportunities, there are also challenges when getting to your goals. And this really applies to many BI and analytics programs, where having the data you need in a quick and secure manner can prove to be difficult. And some of these challenges, and I'll go through one after another here, the first one being the lack of inbuilt connectivity within many analytics and BI tools. Many of these tools simply don't have the data connections options to access the vast array of data sources that are out today. The second one is the need to provide data to the BI analytics programs, but running the risk of exposing sensitive information outside of your organization. The third, managing and supporting all the required data connectors, a particular issue for organizations out there that try to build their own data connectors in-house. And fourth and fifth, I'll combine these two together, are data source and API schema changes and the difficulty for many BI tools to access on-prem data via the cloud. And the last two, I'll combine them into one again, goes back to the theme of security. Many BI and analytics tools out of the box, as well as in-house data connectors, lack the ability to provide proper auditing of who accessed what, when, and for how long. And really, the ability to have uniform identity across multiple data sources is a huge challenge. So you're probably wondering how here at Progress Data Direct we can help with some of those challenges. Well, to start really from the top, the lack of inbuilt connectivity, that's a challenge. Well, Progress Data Direct, using standard-based connectors, we allow your organization to expand the connectivity options of your favorite BI and analytics tool by really multifold. And if you don't have the connectivity out of the box, we allow you to extend capabilities of our data access gateway by adding third-party connectors to it. As of now, Progress Data Direct has over 75 plus connectors, plus ARC and any REST API data source. The second challenge many organizations are having is the exposing sensitive private information. While using Progress Data Direct, a lot of our customers are using what is known as our offering hybrid data pipeline, where you can secure all your data sources behind your corporate authentication and identity. And you can also decide which tables and columns to expose to what group of people, really giving you better control towards maintaining data privacy. And we can all agree that is a huge goal today. The third one, the challenge of installing and managing required software. With Progress Data Direct, you don't have to install multiple connection drivers and manage those installations to keep your system working and healthy. Through Progress, you can access all your data using a single connector. The fourth challenge of the dynamic nature of data source API schema changes, with more and more data being presented in cloud-based apps behind APIs, the APIs are getting directly exposed to the dynamic nature of these API and schema changes on the data side. Well, once again, mentioning hybrid data pipeline, you can help by exposing a snapshot of the schema to your applications, and you can choose to progressively expose the API schema changes to your BI and analytics production deployment after a thorough testing. The fifth one, accessing on-prem data with cloud BI tools, something that's really sprung up within the last few years as a challenge. I think we can all agree accessing on-premise data from cloud can be a big security challenge, as it either involves exposing ports in your firewalls or really implementing costly and complex VPN tunnels. Well, Progress Data Direct our connectors gives you a better way of exposing your on-premise data cloud applications more securely without adding a complex software stack in between. And the last two combined together, the challenge of lack of auditing and uniform identity across multiple sources. Well, mentioning Progress Data Direct hybrid data pipeline once again, you can keep tabs on who is accessing what and when for a full audit of your data access throughout your organization. And really, to conclude my presentation here, I wanted to give you some of the options that we have for you as a prospect or a customer of Progress Data Direct. And the first being that of a trial. And this is just one example of one of the multiple data sources that we have. You can go into any one of our data sources and do a free trial. I believe most of them are up to 30 days now where you can trial the software and the connectivity and see really how it could benefit your BI and analytics program. And of course, if you have any questions for us, we're just an email or a phone call away. And with that, this concludes my presentation, and I look forward to hearing some questions. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, Todd. It's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker today, Rachel Podreski, VP of Technical Services at Ahana. Welcome to the broadcast, Rachel.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here. All right, so we are going to talk about 4 easy tricks to save big money on big data in the cloud. And yes, it's a clickbait title, but hopefully you'll get the overall theme of what I'm trying to get at. So let's talk about analytics for a moment. Now, traditionally, for better or for worse, any type of BI, analytics, call it what you want, is a cost center for an organization. So from time immemorial, people have been trying to reduce costs, but at the same time, as Todd said just earlier, the amount of data is getting bigger and bigger. So what do we need to do these cloud-based analytics? So let's break it down. So you have users, right? They're probably pretty demanding, and you have data. So the data, so you need some way for those users to talk to that data. And for most of us, that's going to be something called SQL. And SQL works great. It's an industry standard. People like to be able to ask questions of their data using SQL. But for SQL to work, you need some type of abstraction layer that will translate that SQL to the data that your users want to access. And again, traditionally that is done in metadata tables. There's some type of catalog or some way that translates SQL queries to how the data is actually structured on disk. Last but not least, you need some type of system that authenticates these users and authorizes them to do stuff. So your users have a way of accessing the table through the data through SQL and the metadata tables. So great. So what do we call this thing? So if we put them all together, it's called a cloud data warehouse or a data warehouse. And this is if you want to break down Redshift or Snowflake or Vertica or even Teradata, that's what they are. They are data on disk with some type of metadata, a type of query layer, and then users that access that data. But as we know, cloud data warehouses are not always the least expensive answer, especially as the amount of data that you have gets bigger and bigger. And some of that data may be super valuable, some may be of less value, but no matter what the value is of that data, you want to be able to provide it to your users in a most cost-effective way. So again, cloud data warehouses, a great answer to this question, but they're usually pretty expensive, and then they lock you in. So you no longer have choices about where you store your data, how you access it, and what type of language you use. So where can we break this down to see where we can save money, but still provide the same level of analytics to our users? So let's first start at the bottom. Let's look at data stored on disk. How do we make that cheaper? Well, we can store that data in an analytics-friendly format like Parquet or Orc, and we can store it in places like S3, which are relatively inexpensive. You may have heard of this structure before. This is called a data lake. And what's great about data lakes is that it unlocks data for all your different types of users, not just your users that might be asking BI questions, but those might be using machine learning or AI. Data lakes are an extremely popular way of providing data to the entire, to your organization. All right, so next, the metadata tables. This is pretty much infrastructure, but luckily there are ways now of replacing that as well. So you can use the Hive as Metastore, or if you're in AWS, you can use something like Glue. Again, fairly inexpensive, but it allows a translation of the data that's in your data lake into some type of structure. You need some type of system that authenticates users and authorizes them to do stuff. Most organizations will have some type of authentication like Okta, but in terms of authorization, you can use Apache Ranger, which is an open source project, or you can use something through Amazon like Lakeformation. So both of those products will provide authorization access for your users. But last but not least, we have that SQL portion. So how can you replace the SQL portion for the data that's in your data lake? And for that, we have Presto. Presto is an open source project that came out of Facebook as a successor to Hive. So Presto is a massively scalable, distributed in-memory system that allows you to write queries, not just against data lake files, but also other databases as well. So Presto is an excellent option for reducing the cost of this, of your analytics. So altogether, we have what I like to call the open SQL data lakehouse. So we've replaced each portion of that cloud data warehouse with an open or less expensive standard, but we still get all the same functionality. And in some ways, you're going to be able to get more, because not only do you have SQL access to that data files, but like I mentioned earlier, you can also allow your other users that might be doing data mining, ML, AI, to access that data in the data lake. It may seem a little overwhelming still, right? You're like, okay, Rachel, I have all these pieces. I can understand how they can all save me money, but that's a lot of moving parts. And this is where Ahana comes in. So Ahana is a AWS-based service that will allow you to deploy this open data lakehouse in less than 30 minutes. We will give you all the pieces. If you give us an S3 bucket, we will give you a Hive Metastore, a full control over a Presto cluster that will help you manage, and then Ranger or Lakeformation to provide authorization to that data. And I think with that, I will pass it back over to Stephen.
Thank you very much, Rachel. Okay, so I'm going to introduce our next speaker today. It's my pleasure to introduce Mike Frasca, Field Chief Technology Officer at Reltio. Welcome to the broadcast, Mike.
Thank you, Stephen. I'm glad to be here. So let's kind of skip the photo slide and get right into it. So today, really, I want to talk to everybody about some of the challenges that we see in modern analytics and really generating those insights that you can use to make decisions in your business, and how modern master data management platforms can really help you in this overall process, how they can help you with the automation of data cleansing and data aggregation, help you with overall data quality that you see in your analytics environments, and really help you with real-time access to that data so that you're making decisions on data that's up to date and the most current stuff that you have in your enterprise. So I think this is touched on by the last two presenters. Data is getting larger and larger. We have more and more and more applications in our enterprise. Gartner estimates that the average enterprise has almost 450 different distinct applications that have their own databases, that have their own data, that have their own versions of the truth of that data. So this is only going to get more and more complex. As we bring this data into the analytics layer, it's not just about getting that data there. It's not just about moving it from point A to point B, but it's about consolidating that data and really understanding that you have Mike Frasca in your sales system and in your billing system and in your marketing system, and that it's the same person. And typically today, we see that happening through really large batch ETL jobs, which may happen once a week, once a month, once a day. And those things are really inefficient. They're slow. They don't scale super well as you add new and new applications. And we know this problem is only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse over time as you add more and more of these applications. So, what are the challenges that we run into as part of this? Application data, typically today, as we bring this together in that analytics layer, moves into a data warehouse, a cloud data warehouse, a data lake, and it moves in typically through some batch ETL processes, through scripts, through custom code, and that's really challenging to maintain. We can't really do analytics at the application layer because application data is fit for purpose. It's stored there in a way that only that application needs. It's not connected to other applications. So we really do need a place where we bring all this data together. And then once we have it all together, we find that all of our data analysts and people doing and deriving these insights are spending the large majority of their time just standardizing and cleansing and aggregating and writing joins in SQL and doing all this work just to get the data ready to go to get their insights instead of actually getting insights out of things. So how does MDM and master data management help you with this? Really at its core, modern master data management is about unifying data from all of these sources. It's about getting data together, aggregating, and consolidating it so it can be ready and for insights inside of those analytics frameworks. And so whether it's 8 systems or 24 systems or 100 systems, every team across the enterprise can use master data management tools to be able to consolidate and aggregate that data and have one single source of truth for who all your customers are, who all your suppliers are, what all the products do you have inside of your organization. And then the core piece about modern master data management is the access to this data in real time. I said previously this data was through batch ETL. You may get it once a week or once a month, but you're making decisions on data that's a week old. Lots of things can change in a week. And so modern master data management tools are really driving this data into your analytics layer to make business decisions in real time as people are actually interfacing with your overall business. So, what are the core functions that enable this inside of the master data management platforms? Entity management, which is really about the consolidation and understanding of that Mike Frasca is my customer, and I may have 3 versions of him, one in billing, one in sales, one in marketing, but these are all really the same person. That concept is core to MDM in general. But within modern technologies, we're really focused on how do we make that matching easier and faster? How do we use things like machine learning and probabilistic matching to be able to bring more data together and understand it? How do we expose confidence in matching to your business users and your consumers so that they have confidence in that data as it hits the analytics layer so that they will actually use it? If people don't believe in the data, they won't use that data. And then building context-aware master records. So your marketing system may have a version of me where they want to market to my vacation home, but the sales team knows they can't reach out to me at that address or vice versa. And so we want to be able to give versions of your customers that are context-aware to who's ever consuming them. Data quality. So typical data quality happens in batch. Once again, it happens maybe once a week. It happens every once a month, and you get this big report. Modern master data management tooling is all about real time. It's curating that data as it comes in, being able to write custom validation rules for your data and your enterprise, being able to cleanse and enrich that data with third-party sources like Dun & Bradstreet, being able to standardize that data with all these different state codes and country codes and specialty codes that you may have across your business to have canonical values so that analytics teams don't have to do all of that work in the end. And then data integration, really this is about getting that data available through REST API calls so operationally systems could hook up to that data, using connectors to get that data into the analytics tooling in real time so it's available fast and you don't have to hire a development team to go out and move this data from point A to point B. So Cloud MDM extends those capabilities. It's not just about entity management. It's not just about data quality in order to get this data available for for insights. This is about relationship management. How do we understand that I can only understand who Mike Frasca is, but I want to understand that my wife, Nicole Frasca, is also looking for a product or just bought a product through your company, and that we're married together, because that may influence my decisions in my analytics layer for deriving insights. We want to be able to do things like understand data governance workflows and manage them more efficiently so that I can make better use of my resources that I have in-house that are actually stewarding and organizing and governing this data. And then reference data management, have a single place that we can use for analytics, for operational needs, in order to consolidate standard vocabulary, standard lookup codes like state codes and country codes to a single thing in a single format, so that analytics can focus on really deriving insights. Once again, this is all about, once that data is in the analytics layer, we don't want people to have to spend a large majority of their time cleaning data. We want them going to driving insights and helping you make better decisions. So we've talked a little bit about, what are those capabilities, how master data management can fit into that overall lifecycle, but what are the gains that we see out of this? We can see up to 80% gains in efficiency for analysts that are actually using this data in your analytics environment, whether that's a data lake or a data warehouse or a cloud data warehouse. Instead of spending 80% of their time organizing and aggregating data, they're spending that time actually driving insights. For a real example from a customer of ours, Dodge Construction Network increased opportunities in their client base by 30% by being able to more accurately identify customer trends by organizing and cleansing this data prior to getting into their analytics layer. And then a global beauty products company was able to make faster decisions and expedite rollout of new projects pretty dramatically because of their improved understanding of their customer buying behavior and patterns. So once again, this is about getting data ready to go so those analytics are more effective and you can make better decisions. And then towards the end, we'll talk a little bit about, how does this happen? What are other benefits that our customers are seeing? Forrester actually conducted a total economic impact study to evaluate the factors of an investment in master data management, the costs, the benefits, the risks. And Forrester built out an ROI model for a composite organization that had both B2B and B2C operations based on interviews with current Reltio customers. And these are some of the outcomes that they came out of from that economic impact study: an ROI of 366%, an NPV of $13 million, and a payback period of less than 6 months from go live for their actual deployment of the platform. And so, we really feel that from an analytics perspective, it's not just about storage. It's not just about getting data in there. It's about getting data in there fast, cleansed, aggregated properly, so that your analysts can spend their time doing their real job, which is driving insights and helping you make better decisions. And thank you guys for the time.
Thank you very much, Mike. Okay, so on to our final speaker for today, last but certainly not least, Chris Santiago, Vice President of Solutions Engineering at Unravel Data. Welcome to the broadcast, Chris.
Thanks, Stephen. Thank you for having me. And also a special thanks out to Todd, Rachel, and Mike. I always like starting off last and getting to hear everybody's perspectives. And so a little bit about me. My name is Chris Santiago. I am the Vice President of Solutions Engineering for a company called Unravel Data. I've been with the company for almost 5 years now, and have worked with companies that are doing really, really good things with data, more specifically data at scale, big data. Really, my mission, my primary role is to essentially make sure that Unravel's customers are wildly successful, but also have fun doing it by building a world-class team. I'll set the context here in terms of where we're at with data today. Mark Andreessen of Andreessen Horowitz, a famous VC or successful VC venture capitalist firm out there, argued that software is eating the world. And today, software is indeed baked into every organization's, whether it is a grocery chain, whether it's companies that were born out of the cloud itself. Companies have been very, very successful over the years, really launching their business initiatives with software. Fast forward till today. And it's pretty safe to say that now every company is now a data company. You see the names over here. I'm sure everybody have heard of these, and you can see some of the initiatives that they're doing. None of this stuff would be possible if they were not capturing all the data that has been going through them over the years through their organization. Maybe they were also, nowadays you can buy data sets from a marketplace and start combining that. And now more than ever, companies are really dependent on data, the data pipelines, and creating those strategic business advantages. And they're depending on them more and more than ever before. Now, while it's great that companies are doing great things with data, it's also bringing complexity that is slowing companies down. On the left-hand side, you can see a typical flow where you may have some ingestion technology. So whether that be dbt, whether that be airflow, maybe you're using batch, you're storing it into some storage layer. And so some of the presenters had talked about, this data lake, right? That could be S3, it could be Delta Lake, it could be a multitude of storage options. From there, what are you going to do? Is it going to be historical analysis? Are we going to use maybe some data warehousing technologies, right? Like Redshift that was mentioned before, Snowflake, Databricks SQL, or maybe we will do some more analysis by using some data science platforms like dataiku or Data Robots. It's becoming very, very complex, right? And so while a lot of companies are trying to get the best insights out of the data that they're collecting, I'd like to bring it down into the 3 C's that we see companies face. First one is cost, right? In this cloud world, in this cloud consumption model, a lot of companies are starting to really hit their budgets a lot quicker. In fact, 75% of organizations using cloud services will encounter budget overruns, this year and the year after. So that's not going away. The second C, constraints, namely resource constraints. Now, I'm not talking about cloud services or cloud resources. I'm actually talking about the talent, the people. While these tech stacks are growing, the actual expertise and the experts are slower to grow, right? In fact, if you do a search on open data engineering positions specifically, we're starting to see 50% year over year growth of these open engineering positions, but we don't have enough skilled people to fill this out. So that constraint gap is real. The third one is complexity. And like what I showed here on the screen, there's lots of technology, things that you need to stitch up. And it's becoming just even more difficult that's actually preventing people from going into production. In fact, 87% of data science projects never make it to production. Not because it's a bad idea, it's because just actually implementing this and actually doing this in a production environment becomes so challenging that it just never makes it in. Now, if you want to do good things with data, you need a very successful team. And that would also mean various roles in this team. So on the application side, so think of like the folks that are writing the jobs itself by code, the analysts. Some sample roles would be your data analyst, right? And so they're going to be worried about, hey, can I trust this data? Did this aggregated data set, is this actually, can I essentially trust the data that I'm actually seeing so I can write my reports? You have that data scientists, and so they're wanting to suck in as much data as they can and start creating some real cool algorithms, whether it's a recommendations engine or whatever they're doing from a data scientist standpoint. They want to make sure that the data is coming in quickly. From a data engineer standpoint, these are the guys that are creating the plumbing. So, pipelines are, and having SLAs that are actually met, it's going to be very important for them. So, why is the variance of, this ETL pipeline that's I run daily? Why does it change, 5/10 slower from today rather than yesterday? And then you've got folks on the operations side. So think of this as more holistic. You've got the data architect who's actually picking, hey, should I be using dbt or should I be using Databricks versus Snowflake? He's going to have questions on that. You've got the operations, the support folks that are getting inundated with tickets. You've got even FinOps. So we're starting to see this a lot with customers too, where they have a dedicated practice on just making sure that resources are actually being used in a cloud fashion reliably. But let's not forget the business, right? A lot of folks are funded by the business themselves. And so, they're going to be asking about like, hey, I've just spent a couple $1 million on this new technology or this new modern data stack. Am I actually getting the expected outcomes? More importantly, am I actually getting the promised ROI out of these platforms that was promised to me from the beginning? So you have all these stakeholders that are trying to do cool things with data. They all need to work together. But the challenge here is they're all using different systems, and I'll get into that in the next few slides here. Now, there are some tools that are out there today, and so there are observability platforms like your App Dynamics, like your New Relic, like your Datadog, that have been very, very successful on your traditional stacks, like your e-commerce sites, your mobile web apps. And traditionally, these stacks are written with Java, .NET, Ruby on Rails, and these request response architectures where you may have a database instance, you may have a front end web app that's hosting the application itself. And these companies like those the Datadogs and the App Dynamics of the world have been so successful that we're talking about a multi-billion-dollar industry here, where nowadays companies who are actually creating technology with that .NET, they would not go into production without having some sort of observability platform. But today, with stacks, modern data stacks like Spark and Snowflake, very parallel processing in nature, different beast. So you need an observability platform that is purpose-built for these modern data stacks like your Databricks and your Snowflakes. Today, customers do have tools at their arsenal. And so whether they're using Spark, they have like Spark UI, they have different tools that are out there, but it's really just confined to whatever that service is. We also have other data observability platforms out there that are tackling things in terms of performance. So you may see companies like Excel Data or Stackdriver really focusing in on making sure like pipelines are performant. From a cost standpoint, you may have Turbonomics, or even the cloud vendors themselves have an ability to provide a cost view. Also, from a data quality perspective, Monte Carlo, being able to trust the data, having that holistic view is where folks are trying to provide that data ops observability platform. But essentially, you want something that's actually addressing all three, whether it's performance, cost, quality, by using observability, intelligence, automation, features like cloud migration, optimization, cost governance, et cetera, and so forth. You need that holistic view to be able to connect teams together. And the good news is that platform does exist today, and that is Unravel. And so we've got a couple of options here to try this out. You can see us in action by going to our website and actually connecting to interactive demos. We can actually do a live demo for you if you would like, or you can actually try us out directly into your environment via Marketplace. Hopefully you guys found this helpful, and I'll kick it back over to Stephen.
Thank you very much, Chris. Okay, we're going to dive into questions from our viewers today. First question is for Todd. Todd, does Progress Data Direct have the ability to pull from a data source and populate within an open source analytics option like Python?
Yeah, it absolutely does, Stephen. The module that they actually use, our customers actually do, is called PyODBC. It's actually a module from Python that connects and really works with all our ODBC drivers, which we have ODB access, I believe, about 95% of our drivers. So a short answer, yes, we do. And of course, if anyone has any further questions, we'd be happy to answer that as well.
Thanks, Todd. Okay, Rachel, our next question is for you. What coding language does Presto use?
Well, Presto itself is currently written in Java, though there is work done by Meta on the VLOX project that is rewriting it into C++, have a vectorized engine, which is really cool. But to access Presto, you use SQL, JDBC, any of those work fine.
Got it. Thanks, Rachel. Okay, Mike, question. Does Reltio have an AI aspect to it where it would learn master data management and data quality with time?
So, when we talk about AI within Reltio, we have our machine learning matching engine, which we train during deployments and then learns over time as that training improves for the matching capability. And then we also are making large investments on the data quality side. Today, we're focused on trending analysis in real time for your data quality, but we are also heavily investing in machine learning there for recommendation engines so that we can learn and use that to help you improve your data quality.
Understood. Thanks, Mike. Okay, Chris, our next question is for you. What are some of the best cloud analytics platforms? Which one do you think is better in performance, Databricks or Snowflake?
That's a great and also confidential or a controversial question. I would say that traditionally Snowflake has been the leader from a cloud data warehouse perspective out of the two, whereas Databricks more on the data science side of the house. But that was the response I would give you if you asked me about a couple years ago. Today, I would actually say with both companies really bridging the gap between data science and cloud data and data warehousing with this whole Lakehouse architecture, the lines have definitely skewed. The best way I can describe it is try both of them out. I think that both the technologies have their advantages. If you tend to be more on the data science side, maybe start with Databricks. Or if maybe most of your use cases are more on the data warehouse side, maybe start with Snowflake. But like I said, both have very compelling technology on both sides that now it's hard really to pick the best one right now.
Got it. Thanks, Chris. Okay, Todd, we're circling back to you. Question is, how does Data Direct work within the regulatory environment we work under, such as GDPR?
Okay, great. It's really interesting. We're getting this question. I would say in probably about 80% of all webcasts now, and it's great that companies are really looking into the regulatory and privacy, along with how they can do more with their data and analytics. What's interesting is that data direct and connectors in general, they actually encourage compliance with the GDPR. One of the requirements that rarely is that there needs to be a purpose for having data on individuals. You simply can't store data with a hope that it'll be useful in the future. So really mentioned in my presentation, Data Direct is really all about providing access to your data and getting it to your BI and analytic solutions. Really, which not only provides better insights for the organization, of course, but also meets the GDPR requirement that you have an intended purpose for your data that you hold. You're just not storing it away with hopes of using it in the future. And also mentioned during my presentation, Data Direct has auditing, role-based access, encryption capabilities that really helps with data privacy compliance. But as we know, 4 years in for the GDPR, a lot of it has to do with people and processes. That's the main thing for GDPR compliance, and the software needs to be a strong complement to whatever you have established as a privacy program.
Understood. Thanks, Todd. Rachel, our next question is for you. Can you have both a cloud data warehouse and a SQL data lakehouse?
You certainly can. So there's been a lot of talk today about Snowflake and Databricks and Redshift, and all those are great options. But what I was describing earlier, having a data lakehouse, is we see a lot of our clients doing both. They keep their more valuable data in the Snowflake or the Redshift, and then they use an open cloud data warehouse to be able to provide the same level of value to maybe the less valuable type of data in the organization. And because Presto does allow federated queries, you could just have a single layer over both. And then your clients wouldn't even know which one they're going to.
Gotcha. Thanks, Rachel. Okay, Mike, circling back to you. What features are a must in order for a modern MDM solution to support data fabric or data mesh concepts? Becoming very popular now, these concepts.
That's a really good question. So both data fabric and data mesh concepts really leverage a lot of the core capabilities of modern MDM. But a couple of things that are really important in this new world about getting data fast and being able to connect anywhere is really supporting things at an API layer rapidly through things like REST APIs and reducing the development work effort in order to get new sources online. And then really about that dynamic and context-aware view of master records so that stewards and users can get access to the data as they want to see it versus seeing it in only a standardized form across your entire enterprise.
Thanks, Mike. Okay, Chris, question is, what is the biggest barrier for modern data teams to be successful?
Yeah, great question there. I would say it all comes down to the teams, whether it's the analysts, the support teams, having a observability platform that was purpose built for the modern data stack, right? So having that single pane of glass for everybody provides, it really prevents actually the finger pointing between everybody. So, hey, when there's a cost issue, let's actually all teams look at one platform to figure out exactly where that is. Is it a data quality issue? Same thing, right? Really, we want to be able to make sure that these teams are addressing those 3 C's that I mentioned earlier, whether it's those cost overruns, being able to get in front of that and proactively make sure that, hey, we're getting the best bang for our buck for the resources that we're paying in the cloud. That resource constraints, hey, if we can actually use automation and some intelligence to, essentially upskill the existing folks that you may have and get them to be, the rock stars that everyone's trying to hire for. Last but not least is just simplify that complexity by, providing that single pane of glass across all of the different systems that you may be using in your organization and stitching them all together. So that way it's very, very quick and easy to understand where the challenges or where the issues occurred and what's the next step for remediation.
Understood. Thanks, Chris. Todd, our next question is for you. Is it safe to assume a GDPR compliant solution would also address CCPA?
See, that's the great thing about the GDPR. It's so encompassing that it really does cover a lot of the newer data privacy and data security regulations that come out. When you look at the CCPA, they have provisions like the right to know about the personal information that an organization houses on you, the right to delete the information, the right to opt out. These are all things that are also covered within the GDPR. I would strongly recommend that an organization that that needs to comply with both, of course, go through the process to see where there's overlap. But on the surface, absolutely, if you feel that you are strongly compliant with the GDPR, you're going to be in very good shape for the CCPA as well.
Understood. Rachel, what about ML and AL? Will that work in this architecture?
Oh, yeah, machine learning and AI. Great question. The data lake infrastructure is well established as a great place to be able to do machine learning and AI type of work on it. So when you have an open data lakehouse like I described, you have SQL access for which helps out a certain percentage of your users through Presto, but that doesn't limit you from being able to provide access for all of the people doing ML and AI type of workloads against the data that's sitting in the data lake.
Understood. Thanks, Rachel. Mike, our next question is for you. How do modern MDM solutions solve for the significant difference between typical application data and cloud/big data?
Sure. So that's a tough problem that our customers are running into. Application data tends to be very fit for purpose, right? And big data in the cloud is just getting larger and larger because we have multiple different applications across the enterprise. So modern MDM solutions are really focused on things like having flexible data structures to be able to manipulate them without having to design complex SQL structures inside of relational databases that you have to get perfect from day one. The other thing is really about scale and the ability to bring in more and more application data so that we can see that one application may be really small, but when you have 1,000 of them or 500 of them, that data set becomes extremely large. And so modern MDM solutions really need to have the ability to scale to those really large environments. And then the last piece is focused on data integration and being able to get data in and data out rapidly. Gone are the days where you can afford to bring on 20 ETL developers to move stuff in and out of applications. We need to do this fast. We need to have data available in real time. And so modern solutions really allow you to do that without having to have all that development activity with low code, no code environments and those connectors that I think a lot of people on this call have touched on.
Got it. Thanks, Mike. Okay, Chris. Across increasingly complex modern data architectures, how can data teams use data ops observability?
Well, that's a pretty simple answer there. I mean, the more complex the stack, the more you really need a data ops observability platform to really simplify all the chaos that's going on and provide those answers. In terms of like what you need to do, it's really, people are using DevOps observability platforms today, but yet still not getting the questions that they're hoping to get answered, right? So it's really just, using something that's purpose built for that, those big data, modern data stacks to really get the insights that they're looking for.
Understood. So we're through our attendee questions, but I'd like to ask a question for all of you to weigh in on, and we'll start with you, Todd. If there's one thing you'd really like our audience today to walk away keeping in mind, what would that be?
I think I'll just repeat what I said in the Q&A and during my presentation. Analytics, of course, is important. BI, of course, is important in this modern environment we're in. But let's continue to focus on the data. I know Mike talked a lot about master data management and data quality. Absolutely critical before you pass it on to your analytics and BI program. More data, usually, vast majority of the time, makes for better insights. So have a plan in place to really be able to get to all your data and feed it into your programs. But of course, as Mike said again, it has to be in a manner that it's correct and cleansed, so you're not getting false answers as well within analytics. And I would say that would be the final thought, Stephen.
Thanks, Todd. Rachel, your final remarks.
Sure. As companies are looking to cut costs, and there's lots of different options for everybody to be aware of outside of your traditional cloud or even on-premise data warehouses. So be sure to look at some of the open source options out there, because I think you'll be surprised to find that they're very complete, full stacks available now, and be able to get the same value at a fraction of the cost.
Okay, and Mike, your final thoughts.
Okay, so I just kind of want to touch on that. We talk a lot of data movement and data storage for analytics, but really it's about that cleansing. It's about making sure, from the Reltio perspective, we're focused on, how do we make sure that data is in a format and ready to go so you can really make the best use of your analyst time. And it's not so much about the technology of where you store it. I think there's lots of great solutions out there for how you store data and access it in the analytics layer. but making sure that data is readily available in a format that they can start making decisions with is really the key here.
All right. And last but not least, Chris, your final remarks for today.
Yeah. Thanks again for having me. I would say, we've heard from the speakers today, great, approaches, technology. I would like to leave for the audience that, all this isn't possible if your data teams, whether those are the applications, the architects, the operations folks, the platform support engineers, the business, you need to make sure that they're getting everything that they need. They're getting the answers of what they want, getting the visibility into performance, cost, quality. You just got to make sure that you've got, the teams are being supported and they're getting all the things that they need to really start, getting the initiatives, or I'm sorry, everything that they're trying to do with data today.
Well, I would like to give a huge thank you to our speakers today for coming on board and sharing their insights and expertise with us. Once again, Todd Wright, Global Product Marketing, Data Direct Solutions at Progress; Rachel Podreski, VP of Technical Services at Ahana; Mike Frasca, Field Chief Technology Officer at Reltio; and Chris Santiago, Vice President of Solutions Engineering at Unravel Data. If you would like to review this presentation or send it to a colleague, you can use the same URL that you used for today's live event. It will be archived, and you will receive an email from us once that archive is posted. And as I mentioned before, just for participating in today's event, you could win this $100 Amazon gift card. The winner will be announced on September 30th. That's tomorrow. We will let you know if you are the lucky viewer. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today, and we hope to see you again soon.